Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Today, I'm going to talk about the BIM 360 account level APIs. This is a part of the BIM 360 Hackathon event. And this is day 2. We started last week from Tuesday. And we have 2 more days to go, today and tomorrow. My name is Mikako Harada. I'm an AEC technical lead and an Americas manager at the Developer Technical Services team at the Autodesk. And before I jump into the main topic, just a quick explanation of how to use the systems. So if you have a question, please use either raise a hand with this hand mark or type a questions. I'm focusing on talking, of course. So my colleague, today we have Augusto and Jim. So it looks like Jim Kwanshi has joined as well. Jim Kwanshi, our director, and Jaime and Bill is in the background. So they will be able to answer some questions while I'm speaking. And at the end of the talk or in between, if it's appropriate, I may be able to look at the questions as well. Okay, so before I talk about my main topic today, I want to do a quick recap of what we have covered so far. This sequence of webcasts is actually intentionally ordered in the way we are doing right now. So last week, Jim Kwanshi started the BIM 360 and business opportunities with the app stores. This one has plenty of demos. If you are new to the Forge and BIM 360, this would be a good way to start to learn what is possible today. And followed by that, I did BIM 360 Forge API overview. This gave a very quick overview of relationship between Forge API and BIM 360, and especially for the BIM 360 docs. BIM 360 is composed with the group of services. So it might be a little bit confusing, so I wanted to clarify that. And after that, we had 2 more technical topics, the authentication and data management API. And data management API is actually the main ones at this point, especially in regard to BIM 360 docs. So if you are new to data management API, this is a very good starting point. And followed by model derivative and viewer API. Sorry. And model derivative API and viewer API focus is model levels in individual model levels. And today, I'm going to talk about account level API for BIM 360. And tomorrow, Augusto will come back and then talk about how to submit BIM 360 apps to the Autodesk stores. So today's agenda is I'm going to focus on account level APIs, and I will quickly go over the scope of account level API, what it means. This is specific to BIM 360, so I just wanted to clarify this one. And then followed by the authentication and account level APIs. These are the tools you'll be using among Forge APIs when you are dealing with the account API. So first, account level APIs. This is the ones, it's also known as BIM 360 API in the document. And this is called BIM 360 API because this is specific to BIM 360s. And oftentimes, people may get a little confused because the name BIM 360 is rather big. So I want to clarify that portion. So again, I'm sure that most of the attendees have seen this slides many times. I've been using this quite some time now. So just to recap, what I covered today will be the ones at the bottom, account level API. So this account level API will span from GUI, layout, docs, field, and plans. And there is some disconnect with when we talk about 4G APIs with this orange part, but still account level side, it's still the same API. Team also have some level of project management, but this is still a little bit separate right now. In future, we are hoping to have this more streamlined and unified. But right now, this account level API will cover docs and then other 4 products under the BIM 360 branding. And also, once again, I talked about this one last Wednesday, and I'm repeating this one because I know some of you have missed last week's presentations. So once again, BIM 360 Docs is an example of using 4G API internally, and those the APIs listed here: authentication, BIM 360 or account level, data management, model derivative, viewer, and hopefully in future issue API will be provided as a separate component to put together as a docs. So that means that if you want to access docs with the APIs, you will need to use this component. So again, today I'm going to talk about BIM 360 account level API. So account admin or account level API is the ones in the UI which you see as the account admin. Recently, this UI has some the changes in more unified styles. So if you go to a docs, for instance, if you go to a docs, for instance, like this one, if you click on this 9 dots, then you will see the account admin. If you click on this, when you click on this, you will see this account admin page. So if you are not the account admin, then you will not see this icon, then you will not be able to come here. But if you are the owner of the account, then you will be able to go to this account admin. In this account admin feature, you can do some admin level usage. So for instance, like project and members and companies. And BIM 360 API or this account admin API is actually quite comprehensive. You can do most of the things you can do with UI. There might be a few things you cannot, but you will tell us what if you encounter something. So far, last 1 year or so, we had some developer reporting what is missing, and seems to be covering very well. We don't receive any wishes at this point, other than going to some project levels. But at least this high-level account admin, it's quite complete. So Forge and then BIM 360 API scope. So the one thing that I kept repeating is that this BIM 360 API is about account level 1, which is documented clearly here in the help, but people usually don't look at this carefully, so I get the questions quite often. So just to be aware, once again, BIM 360 API at this point equal to the account level functionality API. So with that, let's go to API. So apps and integration. So first thing is, in order to use APIs, you will need to have access through the UI activated first. And this is the same as what we have shown last week for docs. Then you can go to account admin page, and you can go to the setting tab. Within this setting tab, you see another layer of tab, and there you see apps and integrations tab. And then underneath, you go to add integration buttons. When you click on it, you will see a page to guide you through how to activate your applications. So if you don't see apps and integration tabs, that means that your account is not activated with API access. If that is the case, please the contact BIM 360 API activation email address. I forgot to put the name today, but it's in the last week's webcast. So this is part of the integration process, which I went through last week as well. But once again, exactly the same process, and you will need to get the client ID and secret from your the apps, which is under developer.autodesk.com. Once you log in, you will have a choice of My Apps, and then from there you create apps. And then you go to the admin page, and when you activate, when you put the button, activate application, you will see this page. So the authentication method for Forge. So once again, I talked about this authentication once last week, and at that time I mentioned there are two types, 2 legs and 3 legs. 2 legs is designed for application context. That means that there is no user context there, and it will be like a business to business or application to application, big company-based integrations. And 3 legs is for user context, and it redirect to the account.autodesk.com, this login page. For this account level APIs, you use only 2 legs. 3 legs is not provided. So be aware. You may get a little bit confused depending on which API you are using. So the account admin functionality, there are the several things you can do. And as a user of this account level account admin functionalities, it's usually account admin, and then also like corporate developers and third-party developers. This portion is not intended for the end users. For instance, the end users who are holding the iPad to view a drawing in a field site. Those are the users that typically not expected to handle this kind of admin functionalities. And then within this account admin APIs, we can do account access control, and also creation of the project, and also company and members and business unit data creation and then activations. And so there is a very good documentations under developer.autodesk.com and docs and BIM 360 under the docs and BIM 360. And please take a look at this for more details. And on the right side, here is a list of endpoint that you can use. It's quite clear. It's analogous to the UI. You can do a project, companies, and users and business units. That's exactly the same as what you see as a category in the UI. And within each categories, you can create by post and get the information by get. And patch is for modifying the existing data. And same thing for the companies, we have a post for creation, get for retrieving a data, patch for modifying, vice versa. So you can do more or less the same thing for each categories. So with that, I want to show again this drill down of the API in demos. And I have to apologize, I'm still behind with providing this one in public, but I still want to use this to show the API in action. So first, this is the first I wanted to show how the UI looks like. So this is my BIM 360 docs page. I'm under Autodesk Forge Partner Development Forge Demo MH. This is my project. And if you look at here, in 9 dots, I have access to project admin and account admin. This is because I'm the account admin of this, this project. If you click on this, you will go to account admin. This is, I already actually opened this here. So you will see the account admin page. So for instance, now I'm looking at this project. If you click on this members, you will see the member list and companies, more or less the same thing. And if you click on, for instance, like the project, my project image, then it goes to project admins. So for instance, in my case, I only have 2, Augusto and me are project admins. So you can see these things. So what we want to do is, today we want to show how to include those information. So for instance, I just wanted to keep this. So Mikako demo, and the UI has changed a little bit, so I'm a little confused too. So if you go to profile information here, you see this project information. So those are the ones you can access through the API. So let's go to API here. So as I said, account level API is accessible only for the two-legged. So you can get the token using a two-legged. So you see a big long list, two-legs. So now I'm going to HQ APIs. So HQ API looks like, like this: get endpoint and then HQ V1 account admin project. Now, if you are using HQ API, you need to have this account IDs, which typically you go to enterprise and this page and settings. And then here, view account. So under your account settings and profile, you see view account, and this is the one you want to copy. And here, you can also use a data management API to get the same IDs if you want to. Usually, however, HQ API is more about your own companies. So this account ID is usually fixed, but this is for testing purposes, so we can use this. So once you have this parameter set, then you can see a list of projects. Then you see a temp project. By default, the number of the project listed here is 10. And I have my colleague creating a lot of projects now. So we have more than 10, 27 now. So I had to change this to a limit here to 30, for instance. This should list all the 27. Yes, this one is, once I got the question, I can't see my project, and it might be this one. You are not setting a limit. So I already know that this last one is my project. So you see this, the JSON format, you see ID, this is the project ID, and you can see the name of the project is Forge Demo MH, start date, end date, value, and this is the ones you see here. You see here, this is my Forge Demo MH, and this one is start date is here, project October 4th and 2016, and end date and 2019 and October 31st. So you get the idea. This is currency value 1230000. So this is a project value. So as you can see, all the information listed here can be retrieved in this manner. And then of course you can change it as well. And exactly the same way, you use the same account ID and you can get companies. So you see the 5 companies. If you click on this, this is a project admin, so I have to check. So this is the companies. I have 5 companies. And now I can see users. None. So I have 28 users. So again, go here, you see the members. These are the users, 28 users. Simple, very simple. And just as an example, so for instance, you have many users. Let's try to use the search name by name. For instance, let's try to find a gym here. How many gyms we'll have? Okay, so we have a gym Kuanshi here. So as you can see, if you want to find out users by search, and then search also has one by company. If you want to find a company with some keywords or word, then you can use this search as well. So there is no complexity here in this account level API, so you probably get the idea. It's really very much the mapping with this UI, and then also here the information. Okay, so then another example will be this example. The sample product, sample program is only for read-only, just to explore or digging into what the data you are getting. So now I'm using a Postman to check, to test the creation. So for this one, I'm going to use a company because it's simpler and less. Okay, so I have to go to account admin and then company. Okay. So I have 5 companies listed here, and using REST APIs, I'm going to create a company here. So first I need to get the authentication. Authentication, we use 2 legs. So we use the client ID and secret. And then we also specify the scope, account right scope. So with that one, we send this. So we got the token here. So I'm keeping this token using global variables. So it should be kept. And now I want to create a company. So company is using a post as opposed to get, and then endpoint will be like this. HTTPS developer.api.autodesk.com HQ v1 account, and this account ID is a variable, and companies. So account ID is I put it in the parameters. This is a URL parameter. So account ID is here, and then you have a body, which this is the minimum. I just put the name of the company and trade, and just to make it simple. With that, we call this APIs, and then it say created. Okay. So a lot of the properties are null or some default values, but let's see if I successfully created. So I refresh here. Then you see this XX API company. I intentionally put XXS to make it easier to identify at the bottom. So you click here, then you see a name and then plumbing. So another one is a patch. So this is to add the details. You see patch and the same endpoint and plus this account, the company IDs. So in order to run this, I need to have my company ID, which I actually saved from the previous ones. And then body is a description from Postman and then concrete. So right now there is no description and there is no trade. So I use this. Again, I just wanted to use the simplest example. Other than that, you just have to fill the parameters. So now you get 200. Okay, so at least at this return value, you see this one changed, the concrete. And description is not returned. Interesting. Okay, so I will just refresh here. So here you see this trade is changed, and also description, this one is updated. And same idea, if you want to add an image, for instance here, you can use a patch, and then last part is an image. So you use the same one, and then in a body, you have to choose a file. I created some, dummy icons here. And then you send. So success. So let's refresh this again. So you can see this one is updated. So the same idea, project, companies, and members, you can do a same process, create by post and patch by adding logo or the detail, adding more details. Okay, so that's basically it, very simple. And additional, something you want to watch out, additional note. So the hubs versus account, I'm using Forge and BIM 360 for a while, and I kind of forgotten at the beginning, some confusion at the beginning, but recently I received this inquiry as well, so I thought it, it might be a nicer things to add. So terminology. If you are using data management API, it uses hubs. The name hubs actually comes from A360 side. Depends on the product. There has been, mixture of terminologies, but data management API usage, it uses hubs. While BIM 360 often uses accounts. So when you are using Forge APIs, be aware that data management APIs hubs is actually equal to account in BIM 360. And with that one, you may want to pay attention. Data management API often say parameter is hubs and ID, hubs, usually hubs.id. But in BIM 360, the account level APIs, it will be account underbar ID. So you just have to switch between, but ID itself will be the same. That said, there are some additional things you'll probably happier if you are aware upfront, is that if you are using data management API, ID will have B dot blah blah blah. Or if you are using A360, it actually has A dot blah blah blah. But if you are using BIM 360, it will be BIM dot blah blah blah. So when you are if you happen to be using hubs endpoint to get the ID and then try to use it in account admin, then you will need to take out the first B dot. And this is something some people get confused, so I just wanted to put it here. And another thing is that if you are creating a project, it actually send an email to the account admin, and unless account admin click on it, the project itself will not be activated project itself is created in a system, but it's not activated. So be aware that there is some manual process is involved there. Right now we are discussing how to make this one more automatic, but this will be in future item. And another thing is project members. Right now you can add the users to the account level. It's like a dictionary. But in reality, you may want to add those each members to each project. That part should be taken care of by each product, for instance, like a docs or field and glue. This part is not possible at this point, except glue. So if you are working on a docs, then this will be still under future enhancement. Again, FYI, before you ask us. So that's basically it. And as a summary, today I talked about account level APIs, and I started to explain about scope, and then two API categories, authentication and the account level API. I think it's quite simple, straightforward, and nothing complicated. This one has been used more than a year right now, and I haven't received many inquiries, so I'm hoping that this is crystal clear APIs. So once again, the recording, it's under Field of View blog, wordpress.com, and if you search, instead of remembering those long names, you can search like a YouTube BIM 360 online hackathon. You'll probably hit the YouTube directory. So that's probably the way to go. And I actually forgot to mention this one last week, but if you have any further questions, you can actually go to Stack Overflow. We have a tag defined there. And if you don't know how to start, then you can actually go to developer.autodesk.com. Under resource tab, there is a Get Help. And once you get into this Get Help, you will see a selection of API types, and it helps you to go into this, jump into this Stack Overflow. So please make use of it. We want to share what we have discovered, what we have discussed with our community as well to help each other. So please, I would strongly encourage to use this. And for the further inquiries, there are certain times you may need more than Stack Overflow. So one is about this specific event, BIM 360 Hackathon. If you have any question about submitting apps, go to BIM, send an email to BIM360hackathon@autodesk.com. And once again, if you have a business interest, Tom Crotta is the person. And if you want to discuss about the features which you want us to add, then Tomer Garon will be the person. And if you have a question about more near future, current API, and or more detailed API, then I will be the first standing person, and I'm sure I'll be getting help from my colleagues like Augusto and Michael, but I can usually filter the inquiries. And kind reminder, tomorrow we'll have the last session for the webinars, and Augusto will be talking about submitting BIM 360 apps to the Autodesk App Store. This will be the first the presentation about this topic. So please come and then watch this presentation tomorrow. So with that, any questions? Is it possible to get users by service type? I can't tell from top of my head, but I have a feeling like I saw some discussion about it. I need to check.
Yeah, I was looking at the documentation, Mikako. So it's the service type is part of the project. It's defined on the project, but it's not returned as a parameter on the user level. So yeah, it's not on the user level, but on the project level.
Users by service type. At the project. Okay, so I have to look.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is the service type is not a parameter on the user, but on the project. So it's not possible to filter by service type then.
Okay. Okay, so looks like it's not possible. Don't forget email, please. Don't forget email. To integrate Forge up to Okay, so question is, don't forget email, please, to integrate Forge apps to BIM 360.
I have enabled this mic. Rafael, you can ask. Probably you may explain it better.
Yeah.
Rafael, try to talk. Probably if you have a mic, because I have enabled your mic.
I know you had to add an email to activate the project.
Looks like Rafael has no mic, so.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So thank you very much. Yes, actually, that's something we encountered the two. So if you go to a BIM 360 API and create a project, then then this user email address is actually optional because you can add a user in two ways. One is email address to identify. Another way is if you happen to know the user ID, some special IDs if you use, you can get from like Authentication API, then you can activate. So it becomes like optional in a way that you have a choices. Because of that, some people get confused and forget. So yes, so thank you very much for reminding me. That's actually one of the pitfalls, if you know, it's easy, but if you don't know, it may be a struggle. Okay, yeah, thank you. I understand. Okay, I think Rafael made this way. This one. BIM 360 apps activations. BIM 360 apps activations at autodesk.com. If you don't see it, you can send an email to this. Okay, so any other questions? If not, then thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow at Augusto's App Store the webinar. Augusto, do